Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Friday night, January 28th edition for Student Loan Justice live stream. My name is Alan Collins. We are studentloanjustice.org. We are pretty much the oldest. We are the oldest and the largest and pretty much the only true, honest to God, grassroots group fighting only and absolutely for student loan justice. We're glad that you found us. I'm happy to report that our petition is now almost at 1.1 million signatures, which is great. Things are in a good spot for us. Now, I know it doesn't seem like that right now if you're reading the papers and you're looking at people like Joe Biden and others. But folks, let's take two steps back, shall we? 2 years ago, we were nowhere. I was, and we were as a group tramping around Iowa, following the presidential candidates around. I literally got laughed out of the room on a very moderate, I thought mild question on bankruptcy to now president, then candidate Biden, in Ames, Iowa, I believe it was. Anyways, wasn't too impressed then. And we have come a long ways. You know, it was our group that got the whole concept of canceling student loans by executive order into the zeitgeist when we started our petition back in March 2020. Actually, it started even before that. It was in 2019, August, when we did the first media interview that mentioned student loan cancellation and by executive order in the same thing. You can Google it. So now today, not only do we have a great bankruptcy bill in the Senate that has all the muscle it needs to pass, student loan cancellation by executive order, which is a very important distinction, is now at the top of the news. So that's a good thing. But there's a couple of very bad things going on right now, folks, that we need to be aware of. You need to realize this. Number one, as long as bankruptcy remains gone from student loans, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you, we're not going to see any meaningful student loan cancellation. You know, Joe Biden could call a press conference tomorrow and say, ladies and gentlemen, I've had a change of heart, and I am now going to cancel up to $50,000 in student loan debt. And the band will cheer, the confetti will rain down, everybody will be happy and pop the champagne. But at the end of the day, that up to 50,000, it will mean almost nothing for almost everyone. There will be means testing involved. There will be probably a huge, disgusting, complicated, bureaucratized application process. There will be all these other administrative hooks in whatever he puts forward. And at the end of the day, yeah, Biden may say up to $50,000, but for you, yeah, you're getting about $3,000. You're getting about $8,000. You get nothing because you're in default. It's going to be, this is the way the Department of Education runs all of their loan cancellation programs, ladies and gentlemen. In the 15, 16, 17 years that we've been doing this, I'm sorry to say, we have seen any number of student loan cancellation / repayment programs come and go and come and go and come and go. And of the millions of people who have tried for them, certainly with the recent exception of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, of the millions of people who tried, 32 people actually got their loans canceled. So guys, don't believe the bullshit. It's like salesman talk. Up to 50,000 could mean anything. And if the Department of Education has its way, and they will, it will mean nothing. So that's bad. That would be bad. And that is probably the worst outcome that I could see for us. Here is what needs to happen. Listen to me very closely. It's the most important thing I'm going to tell you tonight. With the threat of bankruptcy back on our side. In other words, when student loans are treated the same as all other loans in bankruptcy proceedings, the threat of bankruptcy will absolutely, without a doubt, compel meaningful, broad, widespread, deep, maybe even total loan cancellation. We are not going to see loan cancellation unless and until we get the threat of bankruptcy back. So that is why this bill that we're pushing, S2598, is so freaking important And whether you want your loans canceled, whether you want a break on the interest or some middle tier workout, or whether, you've had enough and you absolutely need to file for bankruptcy, we've got to have the threat of bankruptcy back on our side. I don't know. Well, I kind of do know. It is suspicious to me that the other student loan activist advocacy groups out there aren't fighting like we are for S2598. It is disturbing to me because, ladies and gentlemen, we've seen this trick before. We have seen the people in Washington, D.C. foist a loan cancellation gimmick on us. We saw it with public service, with the IBR, with the pay, with the repay, with ICR, with IDR, on and on and on. And we are walking into that exact same trap. The Department of Education and its colleagues and its allies, they fight tooth and nail behind the scenes to keep bankruptcy gone from student loans and also to keep statutes of limitations gone from federal student loans. This is the game, ladies and gentlemen. We've been doing this for far too many years to buy into some nonsensical up to whatever loan cancellation gimmick. That's what we're looking down the barrel of, ladies and gentlemen. Unless and until we get the threat of bankruptcy back, we can't count on Biden to do anything meaningful. So, hey, by the way, if you have any questions or comments, throw them out. If I can see them on Facebook or if I can see them on Twitter, I will gladly respond to them. I know there's a lot going on, and it's kind of hard to digest all that seems to be going on right now. And let me just say, the lending system is vanishing into a mist of illegitimacy as we speak, ladies and gentlemen. We are in untrammeled territory or something. This is the Wild West. Nobody knows what's going to happen. The people in Washington know least of all. They're like a horse in the hospital. They have no idea what's going to happen next. And that is true. But one thing I do know is that before the pandemic, intonation problem there, before the pandemic, less than half of all federal student loan borrowers were paying. Right now, during the pandemic, towards the end of the pandemic, hopefully, almost no one is paying. Like 8% or something. It's a very small number. And I'm sorry, it doesn't matter when they turn this lending system back on. And quite frankly, the longer they wait to turn it back on, the fewer people will. But whenever they have the chutzpah to try and reanimate this dying lending system, this Frankenstein beast of a lending program, very few people will resume paying. People have had almost 2 years to reflect and think about the whole student loan thing. And ladies and gentlemen, student loans, certainly federal student loans, have become one national joke. They were a joke before the pandemic. And that's only getting worse. Time is working against the Department of Education. So they can put off this loan repayment thing. They can put off lifting the loan repayment suspension again if they want, but it's not going to make it any better. It's only going to make it worse. Honestly, the cleanest death to this dying lending system, and President Trump should have done this before the last election if he had wanted to win, would be to simply cancel all the damn loans and reset everything and use the pandemic as a year, maybe it's too late now, but reinvent the higher education financing system. That's what Donald Trump should have done. It was the biggest mistake of his presidency that he did not. But whatever, Trump had his chance. He blew it. I frankly kind of don't see this lending system even existing come 2024. When nobody's paying into something, that something, if it's a financial vehicle, pretty much doesn't exist, right? Like if everybody sells their stock in a company, that company pretty much doesn't exist anymore. So, anyways, guys, this could have a good outcome, and the good outcome is a good, clean death that stimulates the economy hugely, allows people to start families and start businesses and get back on their feet. Quite frankly, I would like to see an apology from the people in Washington, D.C., who foisted this unconstitutional weaponized, viciously predatory lending system upon us and all the damage and real harm and even death that they have caused. But I'll take a cancellation. But again, guys, most important thing, I'm going to repeat it. As a practical matter, I do not see that happening unless and until we get the threat of bankruptcy back. I wish there was a different path. I don't think there is. If Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders were president, maybe I could see a meaningful student loan cancellation happening, but they're not in there. Joe Biden's in there, and we've already seen what Joe Biden is all about. Tonight's thing is dedicated to Joe Biden, by the way, and I'm going to talk a little bit about him. In fact, why don't we just start now? Let's talk about Joe Biden. When he was a junior senator in 1977, he had a surprisingly outsized role in crafting the legislation, 1976 actually, that initially restricted bankruptcy protections for federal student loans. And in 2005, he was a senior senator by then. He deserves a lot of credit for getting bankruptcy taken away from private student loans. Also in 1998, his role is a little bit less clear there. But let's just say that Joe Biden is truly, of every politician in Washington, D.C. that still serves, he deserves the most credit of anyone, all the 535 members of Congress, and plus the president and the Supreme Court, if you want to throw them in, 12 more people. Joe Biden deserves more credit than I think anybody, any sitting, elected, serving politician for this crisis that we now face. So it's kind of personal with Biden. And hopefully, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I think most of us heard the very nice things he said before the election. He said things like, I will eliminate your student loan debt if you earn less than $125,000 a year and you went to a public college, undergrad, whatever. He said, I'm adopting Elizabeth Warren's bankruptcy plan, which calls for the return of bankruptcy student loans by executive order on day one as president. He said those things. He adopted those things, and he stabbed us in the back. You know, he almost didn't stab us in the back. It was more like an ice pick in the freaking eyeballs. So if you're unhappy with Joe Biden, you should be. I mean, we knew his shit was misleading even before the election. Pardon my French. We knew that he wasn't a great guy, and that he was very insincere even before the election. And we tried to warn people about it. But, you know, he played us. He played us for fools. We certainly didn't endorse him, but it gives me no pleasure to say that I told you so. All we can do is look forward, ladies and gentlemen. And looking forward, the most important thing that I can tell you is that Joe Biden must be pushed. He's a politician. That's a bad thing, but maybe a good thing, because politicians go which way the wind blows. Joe Biden came full circle from when he laughed me out of the room in Ames, Iowa 2 years ago, more than 2 years ago. And we can push him further. Now, the one thing I know that will push him, and it's not just him, it's the Department of Education and all the snakes that run that whole racket. The one thing that will push them is the threat of bankruptcy. And maybe it's the third time I'll say that, but maybe you don't understand it. And here's exactly why. You know, there's 45 million student loan borrowers in the country, federal. Before the pandemic, around 38 million of these people were in deep financial distress. They were never going to be able to repay their loans. They were losing sleep over their student loans. Today, that's probably closer to 40, 41 million is my best guess. I don't think the pandemic was great for anyone. I think fewer people are working now than they were before the pandemic, et cetera, et cetera. If we do not see meaningful student loan cancellation, these 40 plus million people are going to be strongly inclined to file for bankruptcy. Now, in an average year in this country, in a typical year, fewer than 1 million people file for bankruptcy for any reason, for business loans and auto loans and personal, whatever other debt they carry. Less than 1 million people. So the specter of, who knows, 5, 10, 15 million people overwhelming the bankruptcy courts to the point of seizure on account of student effing loans? No. That's not going to happen. There's a very good reason that the founding fathers called for bankruptcy ahead of the power to declare war, ahead of power to raise an army, ahead of the power to build a navy and create a judiciary and build post offices and stuff. But those first two are probably the most important. The threat of bankruptcy is absolutely critical for keeping a lending system behaving in good faith. The lenders have got to be put in a spot where the borrowers have a certain amount of power on their side. And at a minimum, free and fair bankruptcy protections, as they exist for all other loans, is the threat that is needed to compel the lending people to behave in good faith. So whether you would ever or never file for bankruptcy, that's not important. I know a lot of people go, oh, I don't want to file for bankruptcy. Well, obviously, duh. Nobody does. That's not the point. The point is that we've got to have the threat of bankruptcy back on our side. And unless and until we have that threat, we will not see meaningful, significant, widespread, broad loan cancellation. It ain't going to happen. We'll see Biden do some gimmick, and the band will play and the crowds will cheer. And at the end of the day, nobody gets very much at all. They'll probably make it up on the back end in interest during the time that they take screwing around with it. It's going to be nonsense. And this dangerous, failed, weaponized lending system will be allowed to roll down the road, roll over tens of millions of more people for a few more years. We can't have that, ladies and gentlemen. We can't. And think about your own situation just as a practical matter. May 1st is coming. Maybe they're going to turn the lending system on, maybe not. Who knows? For now, let's assume that they are going to. Do you want to face May 1st in the continued state of fear and exposure and vulnerability that you are now in the absence of bankruptcy protections being in your back pocket? So do you want to face May 1st naked and afraid? I know that most people, my best guess is that probably 80% of everyone is not going to resume paying on their student loans when and if they turn on the repayment suspension. There is absolutely going to be a mass default on student loans, which opens up your ass to the collection industry, which, by the way, is drooling at the prospect of a mass default. Do you want to face that music with bankruptcy back on our side, with at least the threat of bankruptcy back on our side? Or do you want to face it? Do you want to face that music naked and afraid and exposed and vulnerable? Think about it. And if you're a student loan activist watching this, you need to rethink. Student loan cancellation is great. We're the first group to make that even a huge issue at all, as far as canceling student loans by executive order. We're all for it. But we know that it will not happen until we get the threat of bankruptcy back. So if you're a student loan advocate like Melissa some McBurn or something, whatever her name is, and you're fighting against bankruptcy, shame on you. You need to rethink your position. Either you are ignorant, and I maybe can excuse that, although you should really know something about this topic if you're going to call yourself a student loan activist. Otherwise, you have no excuse. Our opposition has gone to great lengths in years past to create front groups and fake activists who they say they're fighting for student loan cancellation because in the back of their mind, they know it's not going to happen. But what they really are doing is fighting against the return of bankruptcy protections. So if you are a honest to God activist and you have whatever your situation is, if you are truly in the fight for the people, you need to be fighting for bankruptcy, not against it. Fighting against bankruptcy makes you a bad guy. It makes you a pawn for our opposition. Shame on you. And believe me, guys, I don't want to start talking about all the shit that I've seen over the past few years, but there are decades, more like it. There are bad people out there who want nothing more than to keep this lending system going. And fighting against bankruptcy is the number one thing they are engaged in behind the scenes. Bankruptcy is their kryptonite. And that's more true today than it's ever been. So fight for loan cancellation. That's great. I love that. Do not fight against bankruptcy. And in fact, if you actually want to see student loan cancellation, you better be fighting with us for bankruptcy. The two concepts are not opposed to each other. They are simpatico. And indeed, the one depends upon the other. And all student loan activists out there better get that through their fucking heads, pardon my French, because we will not be fooled again. We cannot afford as a country to let this weaponized lending system go fucking nuclear over this population anymore. We can't. So think about that. So back to Joe Biden. I don't think I've ever seen a president tanking this terribly. Like, I don't know what's going through their heads right now. Joe Biden promised the sun and the moon on student loan cancellation and bankruptcy before the election. And if you look at his popularity, it's like it used to be here, and it's gone. And it's like totally inverted. And that's only going to get worse. And there's 40 million people, 45 million people, but 40 million people losing sleep over their student loans. And I mean, the anticipation and hope has turned to dismay, has turned to maybe despair. I think we've gone through the 5 stages of grief or whatever, or maybe not in the right order. But I think what is happening is the people are turning almost past the point of seethingly angry and resentful and headed towards fury on this nonsense that Joe Biden has, this lie that Joe Biden has sold us. At this point, I think if Joe Biden tries to roll out of this fake nonsensical up to $50,000 nonsense, which will have all kinds of strings attached, I don't think that's going to even get him any votes at this point. I think he's lost pretty much everybody, the tens of millions of people, certainly, who voted for him with student loans top of mind. Probably, I'm guessing that's got to be something like 20, 25 million people who actually got up and voted for him with student loans being at the top of their mind. That is huge. We are the largest untethered voting bloc in in modern American history, I'm going to say. So I don't know what Joe Biden is thinking. The political calculus makes absolutely no sense to me. I don't know how he thinks he's going to even have a chance in the next election. I mean, I don't see how the Democrats think they'll even do anything during the midterms, in fact, which are not even 10, 11 months away. I don't know what the Democrats are thinking. So we'll see. But, I know a lot of people feel powerless out there and stuff. We're not powerless. This group right here is the reason that we have meaningful student loan. This group right here is the reason that we have a bankruptcy bill to fight for, S-2598. And if you go to our daily action and do the past 2 weeks worth of our daily actions, it will help big time to get bankruptcy back so that, yes, ultimately we will see meaningful, widespread, perhaps total student loan cancellation. This group is the reason that that bill exists. This group is the reason that student loan cancellation by executive order got into the zeitgeist in the first place. And thankfully, Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer have embraced the concept like 6 months after we started the petition. And right as we were really starting to get big, they kind of stole our thunder, and that's fine. I just the fact that student loan cancellation by executive order is even being discussed now is a very good thing, no matter how it happened. So I'm happy about that. But ladies and gentlemen, we have to fight. We can't sit there and watch things happen. You can't sit there and wait and watch and worry. Signing a petition is not the end of your job on this, because if you haven't noticed, our opposition is strong. They're out there on the internet wagging their finger at us saying, oh, can I get my mortgage canceled too? Can I get this free? Can I get that free? Oh, yeah, you're a bunch of deadbeat liberal snowflakes. Well, we have the opposition beat, guys. We've got them beat. And if you go to our Medium, channel and look at the most recent like 5 articles or 6 articles that we've published. There's 1 or 2 of those articles were meant specifically for our opposition. And, we're a fiercely nonpartisan group, but most of our opposition tend to think of themselves as being conservatives. It makes no sense. There's no good reason for that. Most student loan borrowers, believe it or not, are either Republican or independent. That is a true statement. So they should be on our side. Not to mention, we're fighting a big government monstrosity that enriches the colleges. Conservatives say they don't like big government. They say they don't like the colleges. So conservatives have no good reason for fighting against us. We need your help to change the politics in this country. It's not hard to do. Every Republican I've ever had a respectful, engaged debate with has come around to realizing that, oh, yeah, you're right, actually. I've been apologized to more times than I can even count by diehard haters who came into the conversation saying, why should my tax dollars be used to pay for your student loan? So we got this, guys. But you need to fight this fight because this is your battle. And our opposition is not weak. They've got a losing argument. Of that, there is no doubt. But they have money. They have an army of smart, well-resourced, ambitious people who work very hard, particularly with the media and other things, to try and perpetuate these old, worn-out myths about student loan borrowers being these irresponsible snowflakes. Just go to our Medium article and pretty much read almost any of them, but read the ones that mention conservatives or Steve Bannon. Read those, and you'll see how strong we actually are. We are a non-partisan group. If you're a conservative, we're glad you're here. If you're a liberal, we're glad you're here. If you're a freaking anarchist, we're glad you're here. We can agree on this. We might not be able to agree on many other things. We can agree on the fight for student loan justice. So remember that. It's our greatest strength. And if you ever get into fights with the haters, you can always go to our Medium thing, and you can grab one of those articles and you can shove it in their face. You can grab links from their articles, like a really good interview with Tucker Carlson and Wayne Johnson that is peppered throughout our stuff. Find it, put that in their faces. If you're getting tired of matching wits with these idiots, you can throw up your hands and say, you know what, buddy, just hear it from Tucker and the Trump appointee who ran the federal lending system, and put that YouTube link between their eyes, and that will shut them up. So we got this, guys. The only thing we need is you. We need you to not sit there and wait and watch and worry and hope. Hope is great. Prayer is great, obviously. We need you helping us, though. We need you in the dirt, raking this mud, or helping us throw mud or whatever. You need to be getting your hands dirty, and you need to be helping us because these are your loans. This is your problem. Our opposition is not weak. They're on the losing side. But if you want the quick, clean death that helps, and a good death to this lending system, you're going to get off your ass and you're going to help us, because it's the most noble battle that I can see. I'm a little biased, but right now in today's American life, this is the most important battle going. Winning this battle helps everyone. It helps the country. It helps you. It helps me. Helps the economy. Helps everyone. Helps the conservatives to put the government in check, and maybe put the colleges in check a little bit. That, quite frankly, needs to happen. So the one thing I do know is that none of that is going to happen while you sit there and go, yeah, I should do that sometime, and then you forget about it. No. This is your battle. This is your fight. This is your livelihood that is at stake. And we will get nothing done as long as you sit there and think that me or some other talking head or somebody in Washington, D.C. is going to solve your problem for you. Don't be lazy. I hate that. I work really hard doing this. I've got student loans of my own. I want these fucking loans gone. And as long as you're sitting on your ass eating popcorn, it ain't going to happen. So why don't you be the change that you want to see and help? And to the thousands of people out there who have been helping, who have been doing the work, I salute you. You know I salute you. And that all that stuff is not meant for you. I applaud you. We are the pioneers, and we're the guys that made this whole thing happen. But we need to get this. We need to get this problem solved now, guys. Now. And it could happen literally within the next month. We could get bankruptcy returned. And there's a very direct path between getting the threat of bankruptcy returned and getting student loan cancellation achieved. A very direct path. So think about that. And do a month. No, do 2 months worth of our daily actions. They don't take long. It's like Twitter stuff. You can usually do one daily action in probably about 25 seconds. So you have no excuse for not acting. You got to get off your ass. So please do that. All right, guys. I will be back on Sunday. We're at this 24/7, guys. We're at this 7 days a week, all the time. Go to our website. Sign our petition if you haven't. Join your state chapter group. We need you there. We need you to. Do a month worth of our daily actions. The country needs you. You need you. Don't let this one drop. So I'll see you guys on Sunday, Monday. Ed will hopefully be back on Tuesday. The battle is heating up right now, ladies and gentlemen. What we do, what you do in the next days, weeks, and months will tell the tale on this. So good luck, everybody. I'm more optimistic than I've ever been. I think we got this as long as everybody pitches in. Good luck. Have a great weekend. Godspeed. God bless everybody. It's going to be like minus 10 degrees here in Wisconsin tonight, by the way. So I hope everybody is staying warm. Peace.